Friday night. Best night of the week, at least in my mind. You don't have to put anybody to bed. You don't have to actually cook. We had English muffin pizzas. So tonight we are going to talk about, probably some of you can guess if you know me well enough, because it's something we have talked about several times, or I have talked about several times. And it is the case of Jennifer Crumbley, whose son, we will refer to as E, murdered 4 of his classmates. And I watched much of the trial today. So she has been charged with 4 counts of involuntary manslaughter. And the case rested today. I guess everybody said their part, and then on Monday the jury will begin deliberations. So that's a big deal. Somebody's asking about colleges. Yes, I'm also helping my high school senior, which is exhausting. But you know, it really is relevant, honestly. I have 4 children, and I was listening to the defense attorney, and we'll get to some of that, but she was making some points today that were pretty good. She was talking about this woman, Jennifer Crumbley, and how she was a good mother. She said, you know, she looked at her child's, power school several times a day to check grades. And I thought to myself, well, crap, I don't even know how to log into Power School. And the attorney brought a lot back to her own self, which I don't think worked well, but there were a few points that I think were relevant and spoke to me a little bit. And I thought, I have 3 teenagers. I have 2 teenage sons. And this one statement that Jennifer Crumbley said today that has really stuck with me, and this is what it is. I wouldn't change a thing. I wouldn't change a thing. And I tell you what, I've been a mom for 18 years now. And every time my children do anything, I'm talking, maybe they hurt somebody's feelings, maybe they sent a mean text, or maybe they spoke an unkind word. Every day I think to myself, I could do things better, I could change things. I've got a senior now going through college, and I think, did I do the right thing? Did we have him apply to the right colleges? Should I have made him take the test more? Should I push for advanced classes? All these things. I think she had to say that, or she would implicate herself. Maybe so, Dean, but maybe at this point, you need to not think about yourself and think about the fact that 4 other children are dead. And be honest. I would change something. I would have never, ever gone along with my husband on agreeing to buy that gun. It would have been locked up. I would have done all these things, and I didn't, because I didn't think I needed to. So to me, I would go down in truth. I might end up in prison for 7 years per charge, or 15 years per charge, I think is what it is, 15 years per charge. But at least I would go down and be honest. So the defense argued, so the Crumbleys are the very first parents in the United States to be charged in a mass school shooting committed by their child. Jennifer Crumbley is now on trial. It's early February, and her husband, James Crumbley, will face trial in March. And these people are my age. James Crumbley is actually a year younger than myself. Their son, E, is now 17, and he was found guilty in December and will serve the rest of his life in prison. Now, the defense, you might want to get some hot tea to get into all this. The defense Shannon Smith. Shannon Smith, and this is why I'm not David Muir, I can say things like this, is one of the most annoying people on the entire planet. Let's just call a spade a spade. Let's be honest. She is annoying. Annoying. My husband, criminal attorney, came in and was like, I can't even watch this stuff. She's so terrible. So the defense argued the blame is everywhere else. Would you like to be a part of the video?
Guys, follow me on Instagram.
Get out.
And Blair Wood. Ow, what?
Out. I'm doing a very serious video.
You just asked if I wanted to be in it.
No, that is not what I asked. I didn't ask you to use your Instagram.
You said, do you want to be in the video?
Yeah, but that was not what?
That hurt. You left a mark on my leg.
I hope I did leave a mark. That was inappropriate, and you know it. The defense has argued that the blame lay elsewhere. Her husband didn't secure the firearm. The school didn't tell her about these behavioral issues. And their son pulled the trigger. She had, no responsibility. I've asked myself if I would have done anything differently, and I wouldn't have, she said. That day that the shooting happened, there was a meeting between the school staff and the Crumbleys. So the Crumbleys, just a few hours before the shooting, the Crumbleys go to the school and they're presented with this piece of paper that the mother had already seen, but at this point he's kind of crossed through it. And it's a drawing of himself or a, character that looks like a person holding a gun, bullet, and the lines say, it says, "The thoughts won't stop. Help me. The world is dead. My life is useless." The school said, we think he needs help as soon as possible. And they said, 12 minutes into a meeting, I have a 12-minute meeting about, are we going to have chicken or steak for teacher lunch when we do hibachi? Will you please let the dog in? Now? They said, we have to go back to work. Well, the dad, and I ain't throwing any stones at anybody, but the dad is a DoorDash driver. If there is one thing you can do I could do that job with Amos. You just drive around, DoorDash. So that seems weird. And the mother had to go back to work, but then she had to go deal with this horse. So they leave. Now, one thing that was introduced that I had not seen, and this is a little bit of a backstory, is that Ethan's journal was shown, lots of the journal, and it says, "I have zero help for my mental problems, and it's causing me to shoot up the school. My parents won't listen to me about help or therapist. I will spend my life in prison. Many people have about a day left to live. I have access to a gun and ammunition. I am fully committed." Your daughter wants her mother's attention. Yes, I'm sure she does, and this is her mother's work. And sometimes her mother works, and sometimes I'll be the parent, right? Which is exactly what this case is about. Are you being the parent? Or do you just say, here's Snapchat. Here's this concert you want to go to. Here's a gun. Here, do everything you want. Because I don't want to deal with you, so I'm just going to give in. So she and her husband leave. Let's go back to that day. They leave, and her husband hears there's been a shooting at the school. He calls her, and so and this is, I think most parents would tell you, if you heard there was a shooting at your child's school, you would fly to the school and you would be concerned that your children had been hurt. That was not their first thought. Their first thought was, her husband said, "Where did you hide the bullets? Where did you hide the bullets?" And then she said she thought instantly, "Oh my gosh, he got the gun." But she testified she didn't believe he was going to harm anybody. And she texted him the words, "Ethan, don't do it," an hour after the shooting began. But she said, "I thought he was going to kill himself. I didn't think he was going to hurt other people." I would say that that's probably a lie. I mean, if I had to guess, I think that's a lie. I think Ethan, don't do it is, oh my gosh, I've just seen this drawing of the thoughts won't stop. I have zero, the thoughts won't stop. What else did he say? The world is dead. So if I saw a picture and it said the world is dead, the thoughts won't stop, there's a gun, blood, that was what I would have been thinking. As a reasonable person, I think that's what you would be thinking. Anyway. So she says that's not true. Now, she had a boyfriend, Brian Maloch, and this got to be kind of a big part of the trial. And I honestly think the defense attorney did a nice job of sort of presenting this. She said, you know, people have affairs, and that doesn't mean they that's not the reason this happened, right? Agreed. And the mother is real into horses, spends a lot of money on horses. And again, what about men who belong to country clubs and play golf? I think you, and it's true, maybe we're more apt to blame women because they have a hobby. And I don't like that. But I will say, if my husband was a DoorDash driver, I wouldn't spend $20,000 on a horse, right? I mean, we don't have a horse. I might like one, but it's too expensive because we have children to care for. And we have 4, and they have 1. So her boyfriend that day, they'd been having an affair for about 6 months, said that on the very day of the shooting, she told him, "I'm worried he's going to do something dumb." Hannah, Madison, Tate, Justin, all killed. And she says, "Did you lose everything?" And she said, "Yes, we lost everything." And I'm thinking, you didn't lose everything. You didn't lose your child. He's in jail forever. But Tate, Madison, Hannah, and Justin, their families lost everything. Not you. Not you. So this gun, so they bought this gun, and I don't know if you remember when this happened, but at the time, Instagram still had, I looked at Jennifer Crumbley's Instagram, and Jennifer Crumbley has a picture of the gun on her Instagram and says, you know, look at E's new Christmas present. E also has on the Instagram the picture of the gun, look at my new present. So this is no longer up, but it was at the time. That day, I remember doing a search. So she says, we hid the gun. My husband was in charge of the gun. Not me. It was my husband, even though I hid the bullets. And he was in charge of the gun. They said, "Where'd you hide it?" Well, we hid it in the bedroom in different spots. I think the day that their son got it, it was in the dresser. My idea and their idea of hiding are not the same thing. That's like hiding your jewelry in a bathroom cabinet. If you want to hide something, you would have had it in a Ziploc bag in the back of the toilet. I mean, for real though. Or a gun safe, like we have downstairs. She said, well, there was a cable lock, but the cable lock had never been used. when the husband called and asked where she hid the bullets, she said, I didn't think he was at the school shooting. So at one point she said, I thought he was going to take his own life. And at another point she said, I thought maybe, this is her quote, I thought maybe he had walked home and was shooting in the field. So she thought there was a shooting and he had gone home to get the gun and was just shooting in a field? What? I mean, that doesn't make sense. That doesn't make sense. She picked up her husband. They headed to the substation. She said, I wondered if he was alive. I didn't know what to think. I didn't believe he'd actually shot anybody. She asked about fatality. She thought there might be injuries, and she said, you can, like, handle this. I could handle it. We could handle injuries. How can you give an opinion when you don't have all the facts? Because I'm an American, and I watched the trial too. That's the wonderful thing about living here and what a jury is about to do. They are about to see if she's guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. That doesn't mean that there might be any doubt. Reasonable doubt. They might still have a little doubt. You know, I guess I think about, I'm just a normal person, you know, a normal person. He had no friends. They talked about that. He had had one friend, and the friend had moved away. But then she called herself a vigilante parent, a helicopter mom. She'd never looked at his phone. And so I don't know. I think if you're concerned, I think the gun buying thing, all that kind of stuff was minutia to me. Looking at his phone. But the buying the handgun, and I mean, we bought our 18-year-old son a shotgun, and it's locked up. So if somebody said, you know, how did he get it? I would be like, well, I don't know, because it's locked up. I guess he cut into the safe, but then you wouldn't be on trial, right? There's a reason that no one else has been on trial. Is because there's never been a case of someone buying a 15-year-old a handgun, which was illegal. Now, his lawyer, Shannon Smith, said, you know, you need to be fair and just. She's saying this to the jury. And that's not guilty. Every mother or parent is doing the best they can. And she said, any of us could be up there on that witness stand today. Any of us could be up there. And the prosecution said, no, they can't be. Because how many of us have bought our 15-year-olds a handgun? None. And we know that shooters steal guns from their parents. They've never been charged. We know that they go buy guns. Those parents aren't charged. Columbine, the parents weren't charged because the parents didn't buy the gun. That to me is the biggest part. And then the defense attorney said this, which I really didn't like. She said, this case does nothing for the people who were hurt on November 30th. And I thought, you know, that's really too much. Too much. Too much. My husband was watching this for like a minute, and then he said, I can't watch this person. She's so terrible. And she said, you know, you have to, what you've been told is absolute ridiculousness. And my husband said, well, you can't even do that. You can't make an opinion like that. You can't just, you can give an opinion, but you can't say that is absolutely ridiculous, because that's an absolute, an ultimate. I thought that was interesting. I didn't know that. Yeah, there was a lot of just little things. You know, they didn't take their son to a Halloween party, or they didn't, I mean, all that stuff is not, to me, no 15-year-old wants to go to a Halloween party. I think that part of the case is that this lawyer, Shannon Smith, is so terrible. I was sitting there thinking, I'm not a real lawyer, but I could do better than she's doing. She talked so long, and she used colored cards. I wouldn't use colored cards for an 8th grade presentation. It looks juvenile. And you don't need a card with one word on it. It was like she was up there playing Hollywood Squares. It was nuts. It was really bizarre. And she kept talking about herself. You know, I take my kid to the skate park. I hate the skate park, but I do the same thing that she does. Her son just enjoyed the gun range. Well, ain't nobody gonna get a skateboard and knock somebody over the head with it. You know, at some point you might have to, I mean, I live with somebody with autism. He has a very specific idea of what he wants to do. Sometimes I say, no, we're not doing that. And the gun range maybe should have been an absolute no. It wasn't a skateboard park. It wasn't the dinosaur fossil pit. It wasn't me hauling Amos to, you know, Seattle to see the Space Needle. This was a dangerous activity. And then she said, you know, her house was messy. And I agree, your house is messy. But I don't think, oh, the house messy made her do this. I think the problem is that all the things together, the jury might consider, you know, she's having an affair. There's swingers. She's got these horses. She's, her house is a wreck. Like, where in the hell is her mind? And I will tell you, if my house is a wreck or I've got, I mean, I don't have all that going on. If I have a lot going on or it's messy, I feel like that is reflective on me. So they said it's going into the holidays. You know, you can't clean your house up before the holidays. Ain't no woman ever put up a Christmas tree in a messy house. Or none that I know. I would sooner not put up the tree if the living room was messy, right? I mean, that doesn't make sense. Because she said, well, she was going to clean his room after Christmas. And the lawyer, Shannon Painful Smith, says, my house is messy, and, you know, I have 4 kids, and, you know, I come in and I don't clean up. I just sit on the couch and I watch old episodes of the Kardashians with my daughter. I mean, because I want to spend time with her. No, that was the dumbest thing I've ever heard. I think the mother was, I mean, I really am terribly impressed when people are on that Power School that I don't know how to check in. But did she have to be on Power School? Will I have to be on Power School with Amos if he makes it that far in regular curriculum? Oh, I'm sure I'll be on there every freaking day because I'll need to be. And did she have to be? Yes. But he had braces. And then they said he was a bad brusher. So then he had 13 cavities. And they took the braces off to get the cavities fixed. Well, I'm just going to say, if you've had a bunch of cavities, you know darn well he's sitting around drinking Mountain Dew. I like teeth. I want to keep my teeth. I want my children to keep their teeth. I think between my 4 children, maybe one of them has had 1 cavity. And I brush their teeth. And they always drink water. That's just an aside. But I mean, if this were me on trial, you'd be like, well, she took care of their teeth. And her house was pretty straight. Was she really on Power School? I don't know. You couldn't see me on Power School because I don't even know how to get on there. So Karen McDonald is the prosecutor. And I really liked her a lot because she ignored a lot of the dumb crap that Shannon Smith said. Like Shannon said, oh, there were liquor bottles by the bed. And Shannon Smith said, sometimes I've been known to have 2 glasses of wine or 3 or a bottle. Like, don't quit talking about yourself. I'm not an attorney. I just play one on TV. But what she should have been doing was helping the jury put themselves in her shoes. Instead, she was putting herself in Jennifer's shoes. And so then the jury, to me, would be like, what is she talking about? I think if it were me and I were the attorney, I would have been talking about, you're a parent, not me. You're a parent. And what have you done that if somebody put under a microscope would make you uneasy if it was blown up and put on the big screen? I sort of live this life because I'm on video a lot. Like my daughter came in a little ago and I popped her on the leg and she said, you left a mark. So I get it to some degree. You're always, people are watching you. But I think you also kind of stand by and say, I'm going to defend myself and say, yeah, I was doing a good job. I didn't know somebody bought a gun. So the prosecutor, Karen McDonald, said, what you have to prove in this case is that did she provide ordinary care? That's it. The burden of proof that Jennifer Crumbley is guilty beyond a reasonable doubt of manslaughter. You need to consider the facts and the evidence. And the defense attorney kept saying, she didn't know that, she didn't know there was going to be a homicide. She's innocent. She didn't know there was going to be a homicide. And I thought the prosecutor said, whoa. This isn't about whether she knew there was going to be a homicide. She was charged with with manslaughter. If she had known there was a homicide, she would have been charged with murder, and she wasn't.
And I tried so much more Netflix Junior.
What?
I will not watch that.
You not what? Watch what?
Don't say anything. When I tried so much more Netflix Junior. Thank you. Well, pause.
Okay.
Bye, Mommy.
Bye, Muffy. Did she exercise reasonable care when she left that day? So she could have said, I want to talk to my son alone. Let me talk to him alone. Ethan, you didn't bring that gun to school, did you? Let me look in your backpack. Let me look in your locker. Or she could have stopped at home on the way leaving there saying, I have to go to work. She could have said, you know what? I'm going to stop at home and make sure that gun's there, right? They could have locked the gun. She could have taken him with her to work or home. I mean, he's not Amos. He would have been fine. The dad could have taken him, driving DoorDash. She could have said to the school, we just gifted him a gun a few days ago. We gifted him a gun. And the school says, if we had known that, everything would have changed. And I believe that. And I think there's some that say, well, it's the school's fault, or it's her fault, or it's this fault. When your son comes in, you stop and talk to him. Why not do the same when Blair came in? Well, my daughter is 14 and knows that I'm working and doing a video. My son is 10 and has special needs and does not. That's why. So you treat different people differently based on where they are in life. Right? Right. You have different expectations. But thank you for playing. She had a legal duty. She had a legal duty. And the prosecutor said, look at the evidence, apply the law, use your hearts and minds and sense of reason. Why didn't the school officials look in the book bag? That's a good point. I think the school officials can say they didn't know he had access to a gun. Her mother certainly couldn't say that. When it happened, my first thought was, I wish the school officials had looked at his Instagram, because it was right there. And I talked to a good friend of mine who is an expert. Her name's Amy James, Dr. Amy James. She's a forensic psychologist and looks at these things. And I said, you know, she said, yeah, we go and look at it at social media. You know, just a little blip. Oh, wow, he's got a gun. The school's actions or inactions don't make her less culpable, I think is the argument. The thoughts won't stop. The world is dead. The picture, they show up and they leave him. The father was present as well. Well, he'll be on trial. And it's interesting, the annoying Shannon Smith wanted Ethan to be a witness and to talk about his journal entries. And so I guess he could have said, yes, I'll come on, and I could say, you know, this was not my parents' fault. They had no idea. They talked to me. They took me to somebody, which we know is not true. But you know what he said? And they didn't talk about this either. Here you've got this young man who is in prison for life. He has nothing to lose, right? It's nothing he's going to say is going to make anything better. But here are his parents on trial, and they want him to come on and say, my parents did a good job. This is not their fault. And you know what he said? Thanks, but no thanks. I'm going to use my right to remain silent. Because he's sitting there and he knows, damn it, they should be held responsible. I was their kid and they didn't care about me. So anyway, you know what I would feel like if I were on the jury. So we'll have to see next week. Subscribers, see you in a few minutes. Thanks for tuning in.